Please come in. You're right on time. The door only opens when the clock strikes midnight. Georgia and Hannah are preparing to broadcast from the belfry. Just like this old bell tower, they have many stories to tell. Some old and some new. Follow me up these stairs, but mind your step. Ah, they're waiting for you.
Because it was sitting on the floor and I went out and like held it out to Seth. I'm like, can you put this somewhere else? Because Milo was biting it. He's like, he's not going to catch himself on fire. I'm like, do you read the warnings on these things?
He's still like ingesting butane.
Anyway.
It's fine. I forgot what we're talking about, so
You probably won't remember for a while. You look very purple.
I know. It's because
We look like our energies
like
right
if
now.
oh no, never mind. I was gonna say if this light's on, it's
Oh God.
ugh. Okay, stop that.
Like
All
you
right.
look very like purple and I look very like orange.
Is orange your energy right now? Have you ever wanted to do an aura portrait?
I don't even know what that is. So no, I've
When
not
like
wanted to do it, but I didn't know about it.
it's like the kind of psychic who like sees your aura and then they do like a chalk kind of like outline of like what color your aura is.
Hmm. I've never paid money for a psychic to tell me things because I have a strong prejudice against that. There are now people in my life who I think I would trust to do that. But I think that bias has sort of like your mom.
I had a whole actual conversation with my therapist about this
Mm.
because I was like, listen, here's what it is. Even oh, I don't even remember who they are because they were a student in the IFR field school, but I had one interaction with them, but they came by our table at the convention.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they knew my mom right away, and they were
That's
like, "Oh
right.
my God, I love your mom."
Oh God, Marcus.
But like, just an example, there are all these people in the world who are like, your mom is like the epitome of like the wise woman archetype, the crone archetype, like all of these different, like all these people who go to my mom, who have met her through those kind of settings. And I'm like, that's great. And I love that she can be that person for them, but she's not their mom. And that means that she can't be that person for me. And that kind of sucks. Because of all people who should be that person for you, you'd think it was your mom.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, still, I do still trust my mom with that kind of thing. My experience with Danny in New Orleans was also like 10 out of 10. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would 100% go back to her if I was ever in New Orleans.
I want to go back so bad. I'm so sad that I didn't go for SHA.
It's probably for the best though after what happened like the week before that.
Oh God, yeah.
Um,
Ah,
but it is really hard, especially when you do know, come here. I see you. Ah!
my
Um,
child.
I just saw a shadow.
Yeah.
Um, but especially when you like know people who operate in that sphere, it's really
Yeah.
hard to know like or to just be able to trust anyone. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get it. Yeah. I just want to know what color my aura is.
Yeah.
This is the moral of the story.
I think, well, like you and I are very much like black cat, golden retriever vibes.
Yeah.
Very moon, sun.
Yeah. Well, and like I have my own like categorization system,
Mm-hmm.
like I've said before, I'm a bat, cat's a
Oh, yeah.
mushroom.
That's
I'm a bat, cat's a mushroom. Yours is still sunshine though. It's yellow, which is really funny because I fucking hate yellow. You know I hate yellow, but like you're yellow
hey, but you love me,
and
so
I
shit,
don't
I'll
hate you,
take
so hey, come
it.
here. Hi.
You can't even say that you love me. You have to say it to me. That's so funny. Oh my God.
Leave me alone. I was literally talking with, I think it was Amethyst. I was like, listen, British people, we're known for our repression. I don't care if it's like my feelings, my sexuality, I don't care what it is. I am repressed and I am happy to be repressed because I'm British and that's how we are.
I
I'm
think also,
old school British and that's how we are.
admittedly, without being assertive about it, your mom has judged you for having feelings your whole life.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So why
Which
on
is really
earth would you
funny.
share your feelings if people might say some shit that would demean that or
Yeah.
like shoot you down?
Even though my mom has huge feelings.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, it's that generational, like, it's coming down through the line. Like, she was shamed for having feelings, therefore I'm shamed for having feelings. Even though she has big feelings that she can't control.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just. My therapist said that she thought that I communicated, because I literally read her, like, the chain of texts, and she was like, I
Mm-hmm.
think you have established some good boundaries. I think you've communicated really well, excuse me. And I was like, okay, thanks for validating my feelings.
I hope that your therapist and also Shannon and I have helped you with feelings. Because
Yeah,
boy, howdy, is Shannon feelings.
he's a lot of feelings.
I love it. I don't know about you.
Well, because you guys are the same fucking person.
He feels like kin.
Yeah, he has big feelings too.
So, we've
What?
talked about your usual ghost story told
Uh-huh.
around the campfire.
Uh-huh.
Nice little bedtime story to fall asleep to. And of course, our stories that we tell here in the Belfry. Like, remember when chocolate melted on your bedsheet and for a split second you thought you shit yourself?
I was thinking about that earlier when I said that our toilet exploded because I was like,
Yeah,
why does every podcast intro have to do with literal
like poop.
shit in one way
Yeah,
or another?
yeah. I actually think about that moment like way more than I probably should. I think about it all the time.
I just got the cutest picture of Luna. I'm sending it to you right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Here you go.
So, some other folks, oh my God, please. Some other folks who may have had some opportunity to, oh my God.
Told you.
God
I,
damn, bruh.
I told you. Her tongue is all the fucking way out.
Oh my God. Um, some other stories that may
Uh-huh.
have been shared that I want to get into. In
Hmm.
the mid to late 1800s, as
Uh-huh.
Euro-Americans were blazing across the country in attempts to have first dibs on the abundant resources that the land could offer.
A motion
Um,
picture camera patent.
yeah, they frequently set up transitory work camps. I'm sure anyone listening could probably name a few of these different work camps or like what these industries what the colonizers were trying to industrialize and therefore had to set up temporary living situations like mining, ranching or cattle driving, logging,
Mm-hmm.
brewing, anything. As immigration to the United States increased, the demand for building materials also made a pretty parallel ascent. The resulting chain of events started in the state of Maine with the discovery of white pine's versatility in building materials. It can grow very quickly,
Oh,
right?
I've never
So I'm
been
going to
to
be talking
Maine.
about logging. I've been, it's nice. The drive through New York and Vermont, New Hampshire is
I
great.
think I would love to go to Maine. Maine is one of the, yeah, Maine's one of the places that Shane and I are like, maybe we should move there next.
They have archaeology there.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of Spurlock boxes that say fucking Maine on the label.
They have the like sort of dominant archaeology firm there, at least like cultural resource, like private company
Mm-hmm.
is a company that I would not recommend working for, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So like finding a smaller institution may be harder. University of Maine.
The thing kind of is, I think I told you about this a while ago, but I was looking at like other regional conferences to go to where I could use the AP grant because I was like, if I ever go to like SAA, SEAC or whatever, like I'll be able to piggyback on you and
Yeah.
get most of my shit covered by IDOT one way or another. So I was like, I told Tamira, like, I would rather save the APD grant for going somewhere where I can't piggyback off of IDOT. Um, and I started looking. I was like, well, I could go to NWAC, which is the Northwestern Anthropological
Yeah.
Conference, which is where I presented in college. And then I was like, what conferences are in the Northeast? What are they doing in the, and I was like trying to find their conferences, trying to find what like agendas for conferences in the Northeast, and I was like, there's nothing
It's
here.
nothing.
This is fucking sad
Um,
because I would
Massachusetts
love.
has something. The New England archaeological uh
I think that was
association, like they're kind of like,
yeah.
I mean, like
I think that was the
every
only thing I
state has their own thing.
saw. Yeah.
Pennsylvania's is usually in Harrisburg, but it's
Mm-hmm.
almost entirely like for us what would be equivalent to like early archaic. So,
Yeah.
it's old stuff that people are like
When
screaming over.
that
And
was
yeah,
the thing.
I know someone who went to those like when I was in college, and apparently they were like yelling across the room at one another. Like, you think that happened, what, 20 years ago? No, dude, it's still happening. I love it.
And that was the like not only was I looking for conferences specifically that I could go to, but I was also checking to see like, okay, if they have a conference, what symposia do they have about collections or ethics or NAGPRA or
Yeah, that's a good
fucking
baseline.
nothing.
It's a really
Not
good
even
baseline.
NWAC, which is crazy to me because the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest has been doing like collaborative archaeology, public archaeology. They have been more progressive in their like NAGPRA compliance and everything. Like, and yet it's not being talked about at conferences.
It's really strange. I think it does really feel like the more national, like all-encompassing committees, societies, whatever, are really the ones that care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's because there is like an impetus to care. Like, are they regulated somehow? I don't fucking
Yeah.
know. I think the SAAs might have to, because I think they're based in DC. No,
Yeah.
SHAs is what I'm
SHAs.
thinking of. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they are definitely based in DC. Because I remember the woman that I had to reach out to be like conference photographer was like,
Right.
sorry, busy day in DC today. I had to talk to the congressman, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. My bad. Oh
Luna's rubbing her teeth on my finger.
my fucking god.
Is she about to
Okay.
eat me? What's happening?
So white pine
Sorry.
is really versatile. Uh,
Uh-huh.
this species is lightweight, so it floats well. It's much better than its relative red pine. Um,
Uh-huh.
it's a soft wood, so it's easy to saw. Both on the stump and at the sawmills, like the whole thing is just easy to chop up.
I think I have a
But
lot of
it's
furniture made of white pine, actually.
a lot of what we have now, like all cheap wooden furniture is most likely going to be made of
Yeah.
white pine. Like the studs in your walls are probably made of white pine.
Well, like the hutch by my door when you come in, and then the bookshelf, like
Mm-hmm.
all that furniture that I stained myself, after I moved in here was furniture that my mom bought from a guy who was like 80 when I was in high school and made the stuff in his garage as like a little side hustle, a little, extra income.
Mm-hmm.
And he would sell it all just raw wood. And I've had this shit. I mean, I was in high school 20, my 20-year reunion is next year. I've had
Gross.
this shit for a long ass time, and I only just now stained it, and it's still doing great. So I believe it. Versatile and durable.
Seth just texted me, I'm gonna stop by Walmart for some probiotics. Do you need anything while I'm there? What do I want, but I don't need?
Ice cream.
I have a lot of ice cream, actually. I
I
have a
don't.
lot of
Can you get me
chocolate.
some ice cream? Uh,
um,
something that's not ice cream, but is
I
equally as decadent.
said cookies.
Oh, hell yeah. Teresa gave me a cookie today because like I said, I forgot to eat lunch.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the best cookie I've ever eaten.
My God. Um, so Georgia, white pine is also strong and durable,
Yeah, I bet it is.
and it's also pretty resistant to rot. Um,
Mm-hmm. I'll believe
the
that.
the demand for white pine was pretty high, it was almost insatiable. With the
Good
expanding
word.
populations in cities, thank you, in cities such as Chicago and St. Louis in the mid 1800s, in addition to all of the little settlements popping up in the more newly acquired territories like Minnesota included in there. Colonization, bless. It wasn't long before the federal government began to purchase land
Mm-hmm.
from the people indigenous to this country.
I'm surprised they purchased it, honestly.
Well, remember that the price was very low
Yeah, I'm sure.
for
Oh, well, yeah.
and then lumbermen would buy the land from the government who purchased it from the tribes.
Right.
Once land was in the hands of those lumbermen, logging camps really just started popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to first tell you about a little bit about what life might have been like at a logging camp
Hell
in the late
yeah.
1800s or mid to late 1800s, because they were pretty prevalent until like before World War II, so like Great Depression era. It was really
Yes.
just petering out.
I have to say, I logging camps are one of those like weird archaeology fixations that I have. Probably because that's what a lot of my initial Mount Rainier
Mm-hmm.
experience was based on, the logging camps around the mountain and the CCC camps. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just have a weird thing for logging camps, I guess.
You're probably gonna recognize a lot of this because at first I talk a lot about like, general logging camps, and then I'll get
Yeah.
more regionally specific. So this information was written by someone who
Someone.
actually lived in a logging camp, like a lumberjack person.
Uh-huh.
I believe this was published in the mid 1890s. It was like 1896, I think.
Hell yeah.
Here's what they have to say. A camp usually consists of 5 buildings. Style of architecture is simple in the extreme and strongly suggestive of puritanical origin. Long pieces of timber, neatly fitted together, constitute the body of each structure, the intervening chinks being filled with sticks and plastered with mortar. Boards about an inch in thickness, covered with tar paper, are used in construction of the roof and gable ends. Light enters the building through 2 small windows, one at each end, and ventilation is afforded by means of funnels placed on the roof. Camp customs, while many and varied, are not so strictly observed as they were a few years ago. In some camps, in the evening, singing, dancing, and rough games are kept up until a late hour. It is an amusing sight. A couple of sets of great, clumsy men dancing the quadrille or stag dance and keeping time to the tweedledee of an old squeaky fiddle, apparently having as good a time as if they possessed every advantage of the modern ballroom. Hazing, which was a common practice a few years ago, is no longer tolerated to the extent it once was. Formerly, all newcomers must either sing a song or buy a pound of tobacco, a rule which, I am told, kept the drought well supplied with to luxury.
That's a lot of tobacco. Oh my
That's
god.
a lot. Strangers were often subjected to a good deal of ill treatment. A common practice was for 6 or 8 men to seize another and toss him up in a blanket. Stealing was practiced to such an extent that socks were stolen from the feet of sleeping men. Daylight permitting, the loggers' workday lasted 10 or 11 hours Monday through Saturday. The little time that remained for recreation was cherished by the workers. Playing cards was a favorite evening pastime, often cribbage during the week and serious poker on Saturday nights. If it was possible to get to a nearby town with a bar, loggers spent Saturday nights and holidays on booze, women, and spending their paychecks any way they could.
Same.
Life in the logging camps is fraught with many dangers. Falling trees and rolling logs have caused a long list of deaths, and it is on this account that the woodsman's outer garments are of the brightest colors, blue, green, red, and yellow being the more prominent. The men are thereby able to see one another more distinctly through the thick underbrush,
The
and by
OG
a
hive
timely warning
is.
to avert a great many dangers. It is not, therefore, as many suppose, a foolish eccentricity on their part to appear as outlandish as possible. So it seems like I did leave quite a bit out there from this person's account of what life is like in a logging camp. One of the main takeaways was that the functioning of these logging camps rested entirely, almost like bravely, in the hands of the cook.
Hell yeah. Okay.
If the cook was unable to procure high calorie and all right tasting meals, game over. It was going to be hell. People would leave, the turnover rate would be insane, or sickness would be abound.
I'm
It's
not exaggerating.
awesome.
This is how I feel meal planning when I have Shannon in the house.
Like, you have to have high calorie,
yes, his
yummy meals.
caloric intake compared to mine is so much higher, and
Yeah.
his nutritional needs compared to mine are so much different, and yeah, that's how I feel.
It's like those TikToks that I used to see a couple years ago, where a mom, like, it was a single mom who made meals for her and her little child.
Mm-hmm.
And she would make like one meal, just like a one pot situation, and she would like put it in like 4 quarters, and she would take a quarter and Or
Yes.
excuse me, like the quarter would go to her child and the other would go to her. Because she was also like a very active. I don't remember who the
Oh,
hell this was, but like
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it would be like with you and Shannon. Like you
It's
would take the quarter.
literally
You would take that.
anytime I
I
make a
love it.
casserole and I'm like, here's a casserole, whatever, and I cut it into like 6 pieces, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I eat 1 piece for dinner. He eats 2 pieces for dinner. By the time I get home from work the next day, the rest of it's gone.
Yeah. Well, he
What
probably hasn't eaten anything else too. He's had it for
what
breakfast, lunch,
would
and
have
dinner.
lasted me for a week is what lasts him to a day and a half, if that.
It's crazy.
I caved and bought hot dogs the other day because I was like, this is the only way, like, this is the only way I can like economically supplement your diet is with fucking hot dogs.
Yeah. It's like a snack.
But literally, he was like, I'm gonna
Oh
have a snack.
God.
I'm gonna have 2 hot dogs as a snack. And I'm like, 2 hot dogs is like a whole fucking meal to me. How is that
Yeah.
even possible?
It's
Anyway,
also like, if you make like a whole meal that's meant for 8 people, I I'm
self-control
not
issues.
saying I'm the exact same way. No, I'm not gonna. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm somewhat similar in that if I make like I I made a bunch of like little meal kit thingies for like lunches, right?
Yeah, your cheese on.
Just my various whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And I
D
had some like pasta and chicken sausage stuff happening, and there was like
Ooh.
tomatoes and veggies and fruits and whatever. Um, well, they were supposed to be for lunches, and they turned into breakfast, lunch, and dinner too. It's like whatever is available, I'm going to consume because I'm hungry.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the ADHD thing that's like, this is
Yeah,
ready and I can eat it right now and I don't have to like make something else.
correct. It feels safe, and I'm gonna eat it,
Yeah.
and it's right there, and it's going in my mouth right now.
This is the British person in me, but I feel that way about toast all the time. Like,
Mm,
toast is always there. Toast can be breakfast,
that's how
toast can be a
Dawn is.
snack, toast can be dinner, toast can be like bedtime snack, toast is anything you need it to be. It's
True.
comforting and it's always there and like it's so cheap to make and it takes 2 seconds.
That's how I feel about pasta.
That's
That's how
also
Seth feels
how I
about
feel about
rice.
pasta. Yeah. I no. I love rice is 100% a comfort food, but I would cook pasta over rice.
Yeah.
I want
It's
someone
easier if you have like a bougie rice cooker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I don't
want
have that
someone
shit.
else to make me rice and give it to me.
Mm-hmm,
If
mm-hmm.
I have to do it myself, it's gonna be pasta. I
Yeah.
love just like plain buttered rice, but someone else has got to make that shit for me because I don't want to sit there and watch the water level and be like, oh my God. Especially because I don't have a rice cooker, I don't
Yeah.
want the anxiety of like, am I overcooking it? Is it undercooked? Did I put enough water in it? What am I doing wrong? I don't need that stress in my life.
Yeah. It's somewhat easier when you have a rice cooker, and then it's like a billion times easier if you have like one of those bougie robot rice
Yeah.
cookers, which I want, but I don't have. I have the Walmart $10 one. So, hey
Yeah.
Georgia,
Uh-huh.
who's the most famous lumberjack you can think of?
I feel like you're expecting a really obvious answer and I don't have one. Is it like,
That's right, Paul Bunyan.
uh I was
You
like,
got
I
it.
want to say like Daniel Boone, but that's not right because that guy sucked. And
Oh my God. Stories
Paul
about Paul
Bunyan.
Bunyan
Hey,
very
I was
likely
not born in this
began,
country. Leave me alone.
shush, began through passing oral traditions at these logging camps since he was a lumberjack.
Oh, okay. All right. All
Um,
right.
I mean, what else would they have to talk about? Playing like cribbage in the middle of nowhere, playing poker, going to the bar, whatever. Like, what would they have to talk about? Jesus? Well, missionaries would actually visit logging camps rather frequently. Now that I think about it, as I'm writing this, the general themes of the Paul Bunyan fables are really similar to what was written about Jesus in the Bible. I'm going to stop thinking about it now, or else my head will explode. Um, anyway, the first known reference of Paul Bunyan appearing in print was March 17th in 1893 from the Gladwin County Record of Michigan. The earliest recorded story about Paul Bunyan came from the Duluth News Tribune, which Duluth, Minnesota.
Minnesota,
Minnesota. Which
Minnesota.
talked about Paul Bunyan chopping down a ton of lumber during a really, really cold winter called with blue snow. That's where he found his ox.
I was gonna say,
Babe.
didn't he have a blue ox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'll talk about that in a minute. And also about his camp having ample and delicious food coming out of the mess at the time of this cold winter, which was unheard of at the time. Rains were any sort of agriculture happening in Minnesota was next to impossible. The ground was frozen, and a lot of the available meat was deer. Any domesticated meat sources would have a really hard time getting to these logging camps in the middle of fucking terrible winter. Then in 1916, over 20 years later, Paul Bunyan stories really took off in the mainstream. The Red River Lumber Company had published a few stories with all kinds of embellishments to really just jump into the fictional. It even included a little cartoon drawing of him smoking a pipe with like a long bushy mustache. And I'll add that
Okay.
image to the thingy. And here I will read you a little synopsis of the Paul Bunyan origins, like his origin story, and a little bit of his adventure, just because I need someone else to experience this and my existential crisis about Jesus.
Okay.
Many years ago, Paul Bunyan was born in the northeastern American state of Maine.
Wait, I have a question. Wait, before you get into this.
Sure.
Is this something that we originally agreed upon?
Oh, don't worry. We'll get there.
Okay, because I have no idea where this is going. I'm so excited. Okay.
I really took a circuitous route, don't worry.
Okay.
But I will explain myself later. Okay. Paul Bunyan was born in the northeastern American state of Maine. His mother and father were shocked when they first saw the boy. Oh my God. Paul was so large at birth that 5 large birds had to carry him to his parents.
Oh, okay.
You know, the stork thing? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
When the boy was only a few weeks old, he weighed more than 45 kilograms.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought I was a fat baby at 8 pounds. Jesus.
As a child, Paul was always hungry. His parents needed 10 cows to supply milk for his meals. Before long, he ate 50 eggs and 10 containers of potatoes every day.
No. Okay.
Paul's father built a wooden cradle, usually what you would put a baby in. His parents put the cradle in the waters along the coast of Maine in the Atlantic Ocean. However, every time Paul rolled over, huge waves covered all the coastal towns. So his parents brought their son back on land. They took him into the woods, and this is where he grew up, surrounded by woods. As a boy, Paul helped his father cut down trees. Paul had the strength of many men. He also was extremely fast. He could turn off a light and then jump into his bed before the room got dark. Did you ever do that as a kid where you'd like shut the light off and then fucking sprint?
Yeah, because the monsters under your bed were gonna get you.
Yeah. Admittedly, my parents would shut my light off, or they would leave it on because the light in my room had a dimmer.
Oh my God, the coolest light ever.
I was so afraid of the Slender Man. So
Yeah,
I had slept with the light on for like years and years and years.
I have this vivid memory. I'm pretty sure it was sleep paralysis, but at the
Oh
time
no.
I didn't know what sleep paralysis was. Sleep paralysis for me as an adult is really funny. Um, which I know is not most people's experience. It's my experience. Like one of my most memorable sleep paralysis experiences as an adult was that there
Oh
was a
no.
skeleton basically if someone took a fake skeleton and it was animated and just be like at the end of my bed, but it was wearing like a top hat and a tuxedo.
Oh my
That was like
God.
that was sleep paralysis for me. This is when I was still
Well,
living
your
in my
dreams are so crazy.
I do have really crazy dreams. But when I was a kid, I have this really vivid memory of waking up screaming because I swear to God, in my sheets, it was like a snake, but it had these like big triangular like spike. Like they were spikes, but they weren't like porcupine spikes. They were big like triangles. Like I
Like
can picture it very
like
vividly
a
in my
stegosaurus?
yeah,
Like
kinda.
those kind of
Yes.
spikes?
Yes. Yes. But it was on a
Oh.
snake. And I can very vividly picture this in my mind as something that happened to me as a kid. And I, like woke up screaming and I was, oh my God. My parents came in and checked my sheets and everything. And they're like, there's nothing here. But I was like, no, there's fucking something in this bed. And yeah, that was my
Hey,
like,
the scariest dream I've ever had was a giant cyclops throwing palm trees at me. So
it's really random. Also the fact that you can remember a dream still astounds me.
that's not the part that I usually remember. It's the part where there was an evil guy. This was in elementary school. I'm so serious right now. This was in third grade.
Okay.
Um, there was an evil guy who was like wandering the halls, and I could hear like the of like the walkie-talkie.
Oh.
And I like hid around the corner, and when I walked out, the guy wasn't there. Sorry, I'm like picturing this in my mind's eye. Um, and I can't picture anything, but it's happening like in
Yeah.
my mind right now.
Except that one dream,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I Are you talking about the one that I have in my phone?
Uh-huh.
The note one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Gets me every
Um,
time.
all the lights were off in my elementary school, but it was like it was daytime out, so there was still light happening. And I walked out in the hall, and there was no one there. And oh, my dad.
Oh my God, it's Steve's bedtime. Good night, Steve.
Good night, Steve.
I just
Um,
remembered that I had a dream last week that I have to tell you about. Continue.
um, okay. So I walk out into the hall, no one's there. I, for some reason, go to open my locker down the hallway. Like it's pretty close to the far end. There's literally like one and a half hallways in this entire damn building. It's not very big.
Mm-hmm.
But as a child, you think it's huge. Open my locker. Inside is a walkie-talkie.
Okay.
I pick it up and start talking into it and try to talk to my friend Kennedy.
Uh-huh.
Where are you? Do they have you? Did you get out okay? Kind of thing. Knowing that the bad guys had the walkie-talkie, but I thought I could communicate with her
Oh
anyway.
my
Maybe
God.
she had. And on the other end, look, and then someone responds and he's like, "Who is this? Sir? Sir? Are you there? Sir? Hello? Sir? Sir?" Because it's supposed to be not me.
Yeah.
Panic. I've been found out. I hear running footsteps and I fucking sprint out the door. And outside in the playground is a giant cyclops. And there's like a cyclone happening behind him. And he's throwing like full palm trees, like at running children and shit. And then it throws one like at me and I wake up.
Oh my God.
There was more to that dream, but that was like the relevant part.
Okay.
So Maine is very cold.
No, wait, let me tell you about my dream.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. I forgot immediately. I was too busy thinking, like being in fear about someone finding me and coming after me and chasing me.
I've been watching a lot of Expedition Unknown. That's the only way I have to explain this right now.
Yeah.
But in my dream, I am in a churchyard excavating. Of all people, Jacob is there excavating. And I'm like, I feel uncomfortable excavating here because my grandma was like really recently buried here. And the excavation, we're doing like a one by one, and it takes my grandma's feet out.
Oh my God.
Then, next part of my, like whatever weird dream stuff happens, next part of my dream, Aaron Benson is there
Oh God. What the fuck?
and is like, well, you deal with dead people all the time. Why is this any different? And I'm
What?
like, because it's my fucking grandma. And I look behind her and like uh classic stereotypical like horror game, whatever, horror 90s horror movie,
Mhm.
like bloody decomposed skull is like coming out of the ground and it's my grandma. And I'm like, that's my grandma. So
Oh.
that was my dream last week.
Yeah.
Everything's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Maine. Okay, Maine is very cold.
Yeah.
But
That's
for
part of the
Paul
reason why
Bunyan,
we want to move there.
one day it started to snow. The snow covered Paul's home and the surrounding forest. However, the snow was very unusual. It was blue. The blue snow kept falling until the forest was covered. Paul put on his snowshoes and went out to see the unusual sight. As he walked, Paul discovered an animal stuck in the snow. It was a baby ox. Paul decided to take the ox home with him. He put the animal near the fireplace. After the ox got warmer, his hair remained blue. Paul decided to keep the blue ox and named him Babe.
Oh, babe, that's right. Okay.
In those days, much of North America was filled with thick green forest. Rose up. Paul Bunyan could clear large wooded areas with a single stroke of his large, sharp axe. Paul taught Babe to help with his work. Babe was very useful. In time, Paul and Babe the Blue Ox left Maine and moved west to look for work in other forests. Along the way, Paul dug out the Great Lakes to provide drinking water for Babe. They settled in a camp near the Onion River in the state of Minnesota. Paul decided to get other lumberjacks to help with the work. His work crew became known as the Seven Axemen. Each man was more than 2 meters tall and weighed more than 160 kilograms. All of the axemen were named Elmer. That way, they all came running whenever Paul called them. Every Sunday, Paul and his crew ate hotcakes. Each hotcake was so large that it took 5 men to eat one. Paul usually had 10 or more hotcakes, depending on how hungry he was. The table where the men ate was so long that a server usually drove to one end of the table and stayed the night. The server drove back in the morning with a fresh load of food. Big mosquitoes were a problem at the camp. Very true to Minnesota,
Yeah, I believe it.
northern Minnesota. The men attacked the insects with their axes and long sticks. Before long, the men put barriers around their living space. Then Paul ordered them to get big bees to destroy the mosquitoes. But the bees married the mosquitoes, and the problem got worse. They began to produce young insects. One
Uh-huh.
day, the insects' love of sweets caused them to attack a ship that was bringing sugar to the camp. At last, the mosquitoes and bees were defeated. They ate so much sugar they could not move. Paul Bunyan and Babe left their mark on many areas. Some people say they were responsible for creating Puget Sound in the western state of Washington. I almost said
Oh.
Wisconsin. Others say Paul Bunyan and Babe cleared the trees from the states of North Dakota and South Dakota, where they prepared this area for farming. An Ojibwe legend describes Nana Bojo's encounter with folkloric lumberjack Paul Bunyan along Bunyan's path of deforestation. Really, I was going to say logging, but deforestation.
Yeah.
Nana Bojo confronts Bunyan in Minnesota and implores him to leave the state without logging any more timber. A fight ensues and they battle for 40 days and 40 nights. Nana Bojo ends the fight by slapping Bunyan across the face with a red lake walleye fish. After this, Bunyan stumbles and Nana Bojo pulls at Paul's whiskers, his mustache, making him promise to leave the area. Unofficial sources add a portion to the story in which Paul Bunyan lands on his rear end at the end of the battle, creating Lake Bemidji with the shape of his buttocks.
Oh.
And if you look at an aerial of the lake, it's two lakes in the shape of a butt. It's incredible. It's truly incredible.
Okay. All right.
Now, what the hell does this have to do with anything? I have not specified.
Yeah, I know.
Will you see? Will you see? Paul Bunyan was not the only tall tale
You look like a
talked about
crazed magician right now, for the record.
at these logging camps. There was another tall tale
Uh-huh.
based in northern Wisconsin
Oh, that's right.
about a
Okay.
creature called the Hodag.
Wait, I have to tell you. Okay, well, I joined a pen pal group because I'm crazy and I don't have enough to do in my free time. One of my pen pals is literally from Rhinelander.
That's great.
Yeah, that's that. I was like, Rhinelander, like where the Hodag is from? And she was like, yeah, I'm surprised you've heard of it. And I was like, ha 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 ha. Yes, I know the Hodag.
Lol. Well, let me talk about the Hodag.
Fucking talk about the Hodag. Ow, talk about the Hodag.
Oh my god.
Oh.
The word Hodag was used to describe a mythical Northwoods animal in print as early as 1870 in Kent County, Michigan. Between 1889 and 1892, newspapers kind of across the continental United States ran stories describing that instances of their respective state residents having an experience with a promoter who claimed to have seen a Hodag, wanted to show them a picture of it for a fee, and then discovered that they'd been conned. This was lumberjack Eugene Shepard, who was the first to circulate written reports of the Hodag, in which he described how he discovered this Hodag and included that photographic evidence, which had somehow reached states like Arizona and states of New England. It was described as follows. The ferocious beast had horns on its head, large bulging eyes, terrible horns, and claws. A line of large, sharp spikes ran down the ridge of its back and long tail, like that snake in your dream.
Yeah.
The Hodag never laid down. It slept leaning against the trunks of trees. It could only be captured by cutting deeply into the trunks of its favorite trees. It is said to eat mud turtles, water snakes, and muskrats, and it does
What are
not
mud turtles?
disdain human flesh. Probably like sapping turtles.
Oh, okay. It's just a
They're
weird
all
name
up
for
in the
turtles.
bog.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Other reports described the creature as having the head of a frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick, short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, I'm guessing that would be the Stegosaurus, and a long tail with spears at the end. So shortly
Triceratops,
thereafter, after he had
Stegosaurus.
made this like official publication and had all of this, all of these people come visit, a group of local townspeople went out into the woods with a bunch of dynamite at Shepard's request to kill the beast. So they brought rifles and traps and what have you.
And they were there like Gaston and all the village people singing Kill the Beast.
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
A photograph of the remains of the charred beast was released to the media. It's an incredible image. It's a picture of the Hodag like on a log, and then a bunch of dudes surrounding it with like their guns pointed at it. And there's a dude in the foreground who's like laying in front of the Hodag, like pretending to be dead.
It's so funny.
After this photo was released, it was described as being the fiercest, strangest, most frightening monster ever to set razor-sharp claws on the earth. However, it became extinct after its main food source, white bulldogs, became scarce in the area. By the way, they can only eat white bulldogs on Sundays.
Okay. That
The
seems
people of
normal. That checks out.
Rhinelander, yeah, they were intrigued and confused and proud and what the fuck? And okay. In 1896, Shepard claimed to have captured a Hodag by putting chloroform on a piece of fabric and attaching it to the end of a long pole, and then rendered it unconscious by like sticking the pole out there into its face. So he captured it. He put it on an exhibit at the Oneida County Fair, at which he allowed people to catch a glimpse, but for a fee. Thousands of people from all over, like across the continental United States, came to see this Hodag, which, by the way, he had connected like ropes and shit to it to move the creature around and startle people on purpose. We love it.
Okay.
So, as newspapers reported on this, this zoological find, national news actually picked it up and piqued the interest of some scientists at the Smithsonian Institution
Hell
in
yeah.
Washington, D.C. They came looking, and so Shepard had to admit that he created it as a practical joke. I think that is so funny. It's truly hysterical. Like you get caught and you have to find this. So...
It's funny because like I feel like the Hodag is one of the better known cryptids in the Midwest, at least. But I also do feel like it's one of those that are more widely known as being a hoax. So it's, you know, like when we were at Mothman Festival, like the Hodag still has its own fucking booth there and everything, and it still has its own festival, and it's still really widely known across Wisconsin, especially in Rhinelander. They're like, here's the Hodag. We know it's a fucking hoax, but like we're still gonna do all this stuff anyway.
It's such a fun joke that everyone's in on.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm a big fan.
It's like, who cares if it's real? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun like example of I don't know storytelling, but also like how urban legends are created, and it's also kind of a good example of why you can't just make up urban legends anymore because we have entered into this age of, you know,
It's the
enlightenment.
information era? Is that what people are calling it?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so, because
Yeah.
the age of enlightenment was before this, but yeah, 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 just being able to cite your sources and for people to be like, we can come and prove or disprove this right away, which is
Yeah.
probably not something that was particularly plausible in the 1800s.
I was just next gonna mention that Shepard had actually heard tale working as a lumber cruiser about this creature and just decided to have some fun, decided to, spread the story outside of this sort of discreet community that had been, dare I say, gossiping about, like, telling
Hmm.
this story, right? He decided to capitalize on it, which is like very American. Um, yeah, which I think that's really what we are troubled with now is that people enjoy the 5 minutes of fame, the virality, and so they want to like
Yeah.
get it out there so everyone else can see it. But if you're sort of social media averse or like you're not that interested in moving outside of your bubble, what you have in here, you can say whatever the fuck you want. It's not gonna
Yeah.
reach Obama, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like those people who, it's kind of like a trust thing at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
have established trust with these people who follow you because they align with what you say consistently.
Oh my God, remember the Mormon episode?
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it, like, if you are consistent in your message, if you are consistent in what you are saying, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
on, like, honestly, this is really stupid, but the example that is like in the forefront of my mind, honestly, is Game Grumps. Like, for what, 12 years, 13 years now? It's been like very
Uh,
consistent.
12
Uh,
years.
yeah, very
2016.
very consistent in like this is what it is. You know,
Hmm.
there's no bullshit about it. There's no like you buy into it if that's what you want to buy into. And if you don't want to buy into it, you're just like, this is fucking stupid, and you turn away. But the people who do buy into it are like bought into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's
That's
like
like,
there's no selling them kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about messaging at the end of the day. Or it really, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think the same, I mean, on this, the third day of April 2025, I think unfortunately the same rings true for politics, and we are in the situation we are in because of that. Take that how you will.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Yeehaw. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Elon Musk. Fuck JD Vance.
Simpsons predicted that Donald Trump will die on April 12th, 2025.
What?
Oh, we've not heard this whole
The
theory
theory
about
that Simpsons tells the future or whatever.
yes.
When did they say that though?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But
Oh, okay. That's
that's
really funny. I
that's the
bet it would
date
become
they
fucking true. That's incredible.
that's 9 days from now.
Yeah. Um, so a
Continue.
little bit on the origin. Some
Hell
say
yeah.
that the actual Hodag myth began with the idea of the spirit of the oxen who died whilst hauling material for the logging industry and becoming so injured and disfigured from their time. And so, not necessarily vengeful, but so adapted to the habitat that they became this like creature.
Hmm.
And their spirit was still existing in the place that they spent their entire lives, and like working. Still spending it even after death. Others say that the Hodag came from the Paul Bunyan myth, wherein
Oh,
he
okay.
had to protect his people, like his crew, from this creature, which in the Paul Bunyan collection of stories in the early 1900s, this creature was given the name Bovinus spiritualis. That's the Latin name. Weighing in at
Oh.
300 pounds with fiery, stinking breath, two fierce horns, four clawed feet, and a row of dangerous spikes spanning from head to tail, it devoured dogs and oxen and terrorized lumberjacks caught deep in the woods. Sure. Lastly, want to do a little compare and contrast between the Hodag with a being known as Mishi Peshu.
Okay.
Do, do you know what that is?
I know the name, and
It'll become pretty obvious in like a second.
I'm 90% I know the overall concept because of Josh Gates.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yes.
So the closest translation of this name in English would be the Great Lynx, although people also refer to it as water panther.
Yeah.
It has the head and paws of a giant cat, but is covered in scales and has dagger-like spikes running along the center of its back and down its long tail. It is a powerful creature in the histories of multiple indigenous groups in the Great Lakes region of Canada and the US,
Hmm.
particularly the Anishinaabeg, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi of the Great Lakes. The Ojibwe in particular believe Mishipeshu to be the masters of all water creatures, or like, I don't really want to say gods, but like, the
Yeah.
highest being.
Like
Um,
divine spirits.
and these creatures live in opposition and are complementary to the Thunderbirds,
Hell yeah. Okay.
masters of the air and the air's creatures.
Cool.
Mishipeshu are said to live in the deepest parts of lakes and rivers where they can cause storms to occur. Some traditions believe that the underwater panthers are helpful, protective creatures, but other times they are viewed as malevolent beasts that can bring death and misfortune. It's really like a gray sort of like nature.
Yeah.
It just does.
Actually, I'm
Um,
wondering if it's not Josh. I'm wondering if the reason I remember that name is because of the Bridgewater Triangle.
mm,
If you remember back to when I used to run Call of Cthulhu, and the Bennington Triangle, which is within
yeah.
the Bridgewater Triangle, that might be what I'm thinking of. But because there were lakes and thunderbirds and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of hmm so that might be what I'm thinking of, but continue.
Um, they often the Mishipeshu often need to be placated for safe passage
Hmm.
across a large body of water like a lake. And as late as the 1950s, in like public record, as late as the 1950s, the Prairie Band of Potawatomi performed a ceremony to placate the underwater panther
Hmm.
to maintain balance with the thunderbird.
Okay.
Mishipeshu are known for guarding the copper found in Lake Superior and the overall Great Lakes region. Indigenous people mined copper long, long before the arrival of Europeans came in and raised and butchered the area. Um, Later, during the I didn't write it down, but I think in the 1600s, the 17th century, Jesuits arrived in the Great Lakes region. We all know this. The Jesuits were there. They were fucking shit up. By that time, taking copper from the region was extremely taboo and forbidden by the Ojibwe, who settled along the southern coast of Lake Superior. It was even worse to take it from the Great Lakes' home, Michipicoten Island, and this was considered to be stealing from Michipeshu itself.
Yeah.
Like, dude, absolutely do fucking not, please. Like, so when the Europeans showed up and they were like, hey, what's up? We want money. They were like, oh my fucking God. Okay, so don't go to this island. And so the Jesuits were like, yo, I'm gonna go to this island.
Oh, you said don't go here. We're gonna go here first.
And literally shipwrecked and fucking died and were lost at, I was about to say lost at sea, lost at lake.
Lost at lake. I like that better.
There are a few stories of encounters with this being. A Jesuit missionary named Claude Dablon recorded a story about 4 people who embarked on a journey to the home of Mishipeshu to take some copper back to their home and use it to heat water. I should mention, these are 4 indigenous people, not other Jesuits.
Okay.
And he's telling the story from his perspective.
Okay.
The very second they pushed off and backed into the water with their canoe after they had retrieved the copper, the eerie voice of the water panther surrounded them. The water panther came growling after them, vigorously accusing them of stealing the playthings of his children. All 4 of the people died on their way back to the village, the last one surviving just long enough to tell the tale of what had happened in his final words. So all this to say, while the Hodag may look similar to this creature, either the story has been
appropriated,
completely whitewashed, by the overarching motivations and themes of the American industrial complex as a part of these logging camps existing because they heard some indigenous lore and tried to make it exciting in their own.
Yeah.
Or there are pigs flying outside right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's the Hodag.
It feels very appropriative. Well, and that's the Hodag, but like very little of it was actually about the Hodag. And it reminds me
really not that much about the Hodag because like we know it was a hoax.
Yeah.
There's kind of only one like story right there, but there's so much more surrounding it.
It reminds me of like right before the conference when Shannon was really struggling with what to do with his stuff because he didn't want it to be appropriative, but you know, he had kind of created this niche and it was like continue with this but use it like as a precautionary, you know, like this is not done in a way of appropriation but rather education, and these are the real issues behind this romanticism of the period. Does that make sense? Like
that does make sense,
yeah. Yeah, like it was so it was so prolific at that period of time that this appropriation of indigenous lore, indigenous myth, indigenous knowledge was happening.
This was just this was several years after like Trail of Death, Trail of Tears.
Yeah. Well, and at this time
that like mid to slightly late 1800s where it was like I'm using air quotations, pioneer era.
Yeah. And at this time, like Cahokia was just being
Yeah.
discovered, quote unquote discovered
Like, oh
again.
my God, there's
Um,
mounds. Whoa.
yeah, and at this time, the main mound at Mitchell was being completely destroyed. The main mound at East St. Louis was being completely destroyed because one, they thought they were natural formations. They didn't believe that people in this area were capable of building like that level of monumental architecture, which is crazy because it's a fucking dirt hill at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Like, you really think that people weren't capable of building a dirt fucking hill? Are
Like
you
in the
that
middle of a
ignorant?
flat ass nowhere.
Oh my
Come on now.
God.
Art, bitch.
So like the main Mitchell Mound was being destroyed. The main mounds at East St. Louis were being destroyed by railroad companies, by capitalism, by colonialists.
I
It's
mean, yeah,
infuriating.
railroads, exactly. With logging
Railroads.
camps,
Yeah.
railroads really helped in supplying the logging camps, but also, have you seen Minnesota, Wisconsin? Do you have any idea how many burial mounds are in Minnesota, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean, personally, no.
Well,
Personally, no, but like, yes, overall.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Fucking crazy.
There's something cooking in this house. I can smell it. For the next 20 episodes, we're going to be talking about colonialism, imperialism,
Capitalism.
capitalism, industrialization for
Yes.
quite a while. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be very, very common themes. In the last season, it was a lot about the patriarchy and religion.
Yeah.
And I think those are core themes in a lot of the rest of the world because it's, I'm going to throw up, old world. Um,
Yeah.
the United States as a legal entity is so young. We haven't had the
Yeah.
chance to have war over religion yet.
And that's honestly, that's like part of what I'm trying to hold on to when I like read the news every morning on my way to work, or when I see this headline, or when I see that headline. I'm like, okay, we all knew coming into this that the US was an experiment. Daddy J really set us up the way he did when we were in
Mm.
Williamsburg
Oh
last
my God,
year.
I just remembered the SHAs in an upcoming year is going to be at Colonial Williamsburg.
All right, let's go. I'm
Yeah.
down.
And
I
I
mean,
think it's in a far enough year that hopefully I'll like be in my master's about like a historical thing. So, huh,
I'll never be able to claim a historical thing as anything, but like, as long
who
as you can,
cares?
it's fine.
You're a scholar, it's fine.
But
Father J.
Daddy J,
Father Jefferson. Like we say, Father Jonathan, like Papa John.
Father Jonathan, yeah.
Like Father
No,
Jefferson. Okay, I'm sorry.
Daddy J is
Yeah.
far superior.
Oh my God.
Hi Kurt.
Yeah, the Great American Experiment slash the Great
But
American
yes,
Melting Pot, whatever.
I think that's part of the reason why I'm still just like holding on to hope. It's like at the end of the day, this country has been at it for 200 years. Like, what can you accomplish in 200 years? Nothing. Nothing. Literally nothing.
I think,
And
wait, I think next year will be the 250th,
yes,
right?
yes, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to do fast math and
Because he's
I
already
can't do
making a
that.
big deal out of it. All right. Well, sorry. We're behind schedule and
Literally suck my dick.
also not sorry
We
because
can we can release our episodes wherever we want.
we can. life is hard. We're just trying to survive,
We know the
and
same 6 people will listen to it.
Well, that concludes this week's broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you wish to stay in touch, reach out to us at broadcastfromthebelfry@gmail.com or stalk us on Instagram at broadcastfromthebelfry. Again, I hope you've enjoyed our little show. Please rate and review. And until next week, stay spooky.